I honestly don't know if it was the right decision or not that I went outside. To be completely honest with you, I really don't know, and I keep wondering about it.
Shock! Russia blew it up. Right now, the fire of vengeance has struck the enemy. The armed forces of Ukraine unleashed the Flamingo and the Russians are screaming. Crimea is on fire, Berdyansk is detonating, oil depots are burning, flames are reaching the sky, Russian warehouses and helicopters are in ruins. Yevpatoria is without radars, the enemy is blind. But that's not all. Explosions are already happening inside Russia itself. Nizhnekamsk is engulfed in flames, Oryol is shaking from the strikes. Oil refineries are burning and Ukrainian drones are hitting their targets with precision. Panic, smoke, and chaos. The Russians don't know where to run. The country is in shock. And this is just the beginning. All the details coming up in a moment. Hello, you're watching Ukraine Today. I'm Solomia Dolik, bringing you the latest events. Shock. The Flamingos have flown to Russia. Ukrainian weapons have made the enemy tremble. On the night of November 13th, our defense forces launched a series of powerful strikes on targets in the occupied territories and even inside Russia itself. Let's take a look at these devastating strikes. According to the General Staff, fuel depots at a marine oil terminal in Crimea detonated. There were also hits on enemy helicopters and on locations where the Russians were preparing their drones for attacks on Ukraine, and in the area of Yevpatoria, a Russian radar station was destroyed. And that's not all. In the temporarily occupied territory of Zaporizhzhia region, there were strikes on an oil depot near Berdyansk, as well as on Russian military command posts. And now attention! The strikes were carried out not only on occupied lands, but also on the territory of the Russian Federation itself. The extent of the damage is currently being clarified. A whole barrage of modern Ukrainian weapons was used for the attack. Flamingo missiles, bars, and Lyud drones, these are new developments that have already been created in Ukraine. According to the General Staff, the complex strikes are ongoing. Ukraine is responding precisely, powerfully, and confidently.
Ukraine's defense forces continue systematic fire strikes on facilities involved in supporting the Russian occupation army. To carry out complex strikes, strike UAVs, jet drones, and various types of missiles are being used.
Moreover, Russia is literally sinking. In Feodosia, on the temporarily occupied territory, residents report a series of powerful explosions that occurred in different parts of the city. After that, traffic was blocked near the oil depot on Fedko Street, not far from the railway crossing. Photos and videos from the scene have already appeared on social media. Flames, smoke, and panic among the locals. And just a few hours later, a new strike hit Russia itself. In the city of Nizhnekamsk, a massive fire broke out at an oil refinery. According to some analysts, the primary oil processing unit is on fire. The fire has engulfed part of the industrial zone, right where the styrene and polyester resin plant of the large Nizhnekamsk Neftechim chemical complex is located. More than 30 units of equipment are working at the scene. But the scale of the fire is enormous. The smoke can be seen for kilometers. Trouble never comes alone. A series of powerful explosions rocked the city of Oryol. It all started around 4:30 in the morning, when the regional authorities declared a missile and drone threat. People were urged to take shelter, but just a few minutes after the all-clear signal, the city was shaken by loud explosions and air defense activity.
Well, in the morning they decided... Oh, they decided to shoot them down.
There's panic on social media. Locals report seeing unidentified drones in the sky. And after the explosions, debris fell right into residential neighborhoods. Moments of the detonations were caught on video, which has already spread across the internet.
I don't know if it was right or not that I went outside. In short, honestly, I really don't know the answer to that question.
The city of Oryol is not a random target. There are military facilities and oil depots located here, and also a base from which the Russians launch Iranian Shahed drones to attack Ukraine. There are at least 8 launch pads and a special road from which these kamikaze drones are launched.
After some careful consideration, they ultimately decided to shoot it down. That was yet another impressive hit.
Meanwhile, the Russian Ministry of Defense claimed that their air defense allegedly shot down 130 Ukrainian drones last night. But the reality is different. Russia is once again burning and shaking from explosions, and the occupiers have once again felt that the war is coming to their own homes. Ukraine strikes without mercy. Every Russian attack on our energy sector comes back twice as powerful. Now it's the Russians who are left without light and heat, and ahead lies only cold and chaos. The armed forces of Ukraine are disabling the enemy's critically important facilities. Networks are being destroyed and cities are sinking into darkness. And this is just the beginning. The retaliatory strikes will intensify with each passing day. All the details are in the video ahead.
On the night of November 9th, the armed forces of Ukraine struck the thermal power plant in Voronezh. After the strike, electricity disappeared and then reappeared in several buildings. Voronezh TPP-1 is the largest supplier of thermal energy in the region and provides it to 4 districts of the city.
Right before my eyes, I had just stepped out onto the balcony. Over there, right there. We can see it along the power line. No, well, I heard 3, but they're saying 4.
In Belgorod, the Luch thermal power plant was attacked. As a result, tens of thousands of residents were left without electricity. The regional governor, Vyacheslav Latkov, stated that the damage is very serious.
Due to the losses from last night's rocket attack, there is significant damage to the electrical power supply and heating and thermal systems of the city of Belgorod. Our energy workers, as always, are heroically trying to cope with the tasks at hand. They are currently working on restoration from the significant damage inflicted on the enemy as a result.
A day earlier, Ukrainian drones struck energy facilities in Saratov, Engels, and the Volgograd region. Power outages were also reported there. With massive drone and missile attacks, Russia is trying to plunge Ukraine into a blackout. In response, the Ukrainian army is delivering symmetrical strikes on Russia's energy sector. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky stated that the authorities are prepared not only to defend the infrastructure, but also to carry out retaliatory strikes.
What will happen with the electricity? Today, it's hard for me to say. We will be ready for all challenges in response. We are working on this every day. We will defend, we will fight. Russians should know that, step by step, we will increase the production of everything necessary so that they too feel what we are feeling. Volodymyr Zelensky, President of Ukraine.
In 2025, there is a trend toward increasing electricity shortages in Russia. As of October this year, the shortage of capacity in the power grid reaches tens of gigawatts. This was reported by the Foreign Intelligence Service of Ukraine.
Due to the demand from industrial, residential, and municipal consumers exceeding the total generation of all power plants as of As of October this year, the shortage of capacity in the power grid has already reached 25 gigawatts. Despite the Russian government's attempts to implement at least some measures to stabilize its energy system, such as monetary compensation or discounts on electricity bills for voluntarily reducing consumption during peak hours, as well as disconnecting consumers who do not require guaranteed power supply, the growing electricity deficit indicates a systemic crisis in Russia's energy sector. The Foreign Intelligence Service of Ukraine.
In addition to wear and overload, systematic strikes by the Ukrainian armed forces are also affecting the Russian energy system. If Ukrainian strikes even partially damage Russia's thermal power sector, it will cause significant problems for Russia's energy industry. The Ukrainian armed forces have already brought a blackout in southern Russia 60% closer.
Ukrainian strikes are gradually knocking out high-voltage substations that allow electricity to be transferred from one region to another. If their thermal power plants are also destroyed, their situation will be much more difficult than ours. Oleksandr Karchenko, director of the Energy Research Center.
Not only Russian regions, but also Moscow are suffering from Ukrainian drone attacks and power outages.
This has a very serious This creates an anti-propaganda effect directly for the Kremlin, which, let me remind you, claimed that one of the reasons for launching the so-called special military operation was to guarantee the security of the Russian Federation itself, as explained by Putin and his inner circle. We see that the war is now coming directly to the city of Moscow itself, and the people of Moscow, the Muscovites themselves, are witnessing this development firsthand. And not only Muscovites, we see that indeed the geography of the conflict is expanding and changing. Of Ukraine's drone attacks is expanding.
Ukrainians have long since gotten used to and adapted to heat and electricity outages. But for Russians, this is an unexpected surprise. So now it's time to stock up on matches, candles, and firewood.
Every voice matters. Join our community, support independent journalism, and help us bring you the truth from Ukraine. Become a member of Ukraine today. Join us now.
An industrial collapse has hit the Russian Federation. 80% of Russia's industries are in decline. The central bank is sounding the alarm. The country is facing its worst crisis since the 1990s.
Resources are stretched to the limit. Statements about the stability of the Russian economy do not stand up to fact-checking.
There's simply no other way to really describe it. This is not our choice. We don't want things to develop this way.
Putin is trying to bluff and save face by creating an illusion of success. But it's all in vain. The Russian economy is rapidly going downhill. Almost 80% of the country's industry has fallen into.
A recession refers to a temporary period when the economy slows down, leading to reduced business activity and higher unemployment. In other words, you don't have growth, you have a decline. And recession is exactly that situation, when you're in the negative. And when a recession becomes prolonged, meaning not just 1 year, but say 3 or 4 years of decline, then it's no longer a recession, it's a depression.
By the end of September, overall industrial production growth in Russia had slowed to 0.3% year-on-year. That's almost 19 times less than last year.
There aren't a sufficient number of people, and there aren't even the most basic facilities available to pay for the delivery of components, or, in fact, for a whole range of goods that you need for processing. So, as a result, you end up producing less. And when you produce less, there you have it. A recession, a negative compared to the previous period.
The sharpest decline is seen in those civilian sectors that were supposed to replace the products of foreign companies that left Russia after the start of the full-scale war.
This is the collapse of import substitution, when the plan was, let's replace everything, but to replace everything, you have to produce what you'll use as a substitute. And if you don't produce what you're supposed to substitute with, then how are you actually going to carry out this substitution of imported products when you're not making anything? That is, obviously, any decline in the economy means that goods are not being produced. And if they are not being produced, then accordingly, there is no point in keeping the people who produce them. And that means unemployment, and unemployment is always an unpleasant situation.
In fact, the domestic market is deprived of mass consumer goods, and Russian factories are unable to fill the shortage.
Even now, it would seem, the military sector, part of the military sector is the production of weapons and ammunition. In September of last year, Russia had minus 1.3%. So even the production of weapons and ammunition is already in the negative. What can we say about the rest of the economy, which is showing even worse results?
The central bank has predicted for Russia the worst economic decline since the 1990s if sanctions are tightened. If the situation does not improve, by 2026 the Kremlin could lose $108 billion in export revenues.
Here, let's say the problems are still gaining momentum. But in terms of their implementation, the first thing we know is that taxes in Russia are rising from the beginning of the year. The tax collection will take place on December 1st. The environmental tax will increase almost tenfold on November 1st, literally in a week. That is in just a couple of days. So it turns out that all these various economic problems are cropping up more and more often. And they keep appearing in the news because, it's a kind of zugzwang situation. When you don't have a good option.
Russian Sberbank, following Gazprom, has started mass layoffs. In the first quarter, the staff of the largest bank, which holds half of all individual deposits, was reduced by 8,600 employees, and in the second quarter by 3,500.
And in the third quarter by 1,500. Throughout 2025, there is not a single new investment project that Sberbank is working on. That is, the people responsible for this area have nothing to do. And since they have nothing to do, there's no point in paying them salaries, so they are being let go. Therefore, letting people go is a demonstration that there is no need for those economic functions that Sberbank provides. And accordingly, these people are being cut, but this is just one of many examples.
This is the reality, only Putin is trying to hide it all. But there's nowhere left to hide. The economy is cracking, the country is losing money.
And what do you think about the troubles that are hitting Russia? We look forward to your comments. There's more to come. Stay up to date with the main news and don't forget to like. Wishing you peaceful skies above. See you soon.